school each Sunday night. I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice. With your host, Keith Varney.
And Stonehenge, Mike and Diglio.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
It's at this exact moment I realized I had the wrong file open.
Living out of boxes, loving every minute.
Out of practice.
And welcome to the Out of Practice podcast, a weekly video and audio podcast going over David E. Kelly's award-winning series, The Practice. This will not be an award-winning episode of Out of Practice already. How's it going, Dex?
Going pretty well. Looking at the analytics this week, Keith, there's good news and bad news. The good news is that people are listening to our show.
They are.
The bad news, well, I guess it's not bad. The, counterpoint to that is that they are very, very far behind. The crest of our listeners is weeks and weeks behind. So as we're doing our best to give an up-to-date live stream of our lives, of the world we're living in, it will all be very old by the time most people listen to it, but that's okay. Our dedicated listeners are caught up. So,
Yes, indeed. I think it's pretty much true of all things. I mean, if you're trying to experience the apocalypse through our experience of it, you have to sort of keep up because as the world burns, we're here talking about it, and you're going to be behind, but that's okay. That is okay. Yeah, so we are recording a little early this week because we are trying to bank a couple of episodes because we're both moving. You're moving in about 2 weeks, and then I'm hopefully moving in mid-November. So
now, unless you get a phone call during this exact podcast screwing you again.
Oh my God.
Can you give a little insight to our listeners as to what happened? They didn't hear, there was no cuts in the episode last week, so they don't know exactly what happened, but maybe you could fill them in just briefly.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, my wife and we're buying a house and we're moving out to New Jersey. Looks like we're going to be out into the beautiful town of Rahway, New Jersey, which makes everyone scared because it was a little rough about 20 years ago, but it's really lovely now. It's coming up, which is why we can afford it, because people still think it's a rough neighborhood.
Before I forget the joke, though, what do you and Jillian and Henry Winkler from The Practice have in common?
We have jumped the shark?
Nope. You guys are moving to, and Henry Winkler in prison, both did it the raw way. You know, he was in federal pound me in the ass prison, and you're going to Rahway, New Jersey. I mean, it's loose. I'm workshopping it.
Wow, so many things just happened. One, whatever that was just happened. Jillian, who can hear me in the other room, is yelling at me for giving away a specific town.
That's true. So the stalkers will find you.
Oh man, I have so many problems already at the beginning of the episode. It just started. Oh my God. But what happened last week is we were in contract, or we weren't quite in contract. We were in review with the house, and of course, in that 3-day period while the lawyers are negotiating the contract, they can accept other offers. And so somebody came in with an offer, another 5G above what we were paying, and they're like, hey, do you want to spend it? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, yes. I'm getting more text messages. Stop listening!
Yeah, why start now, Jillian? Oh.
In the rough area, I'm going to retract. An amount of money in a location changed. So those are the things that happened.
So
Something
your hard-earned podcast donations are going to a good cause, and it's Keith and Jill getting out of the rough neighborhood of Astoria, Queens.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no. So it was an expensive podcast last week, but we did get out of review. We are now officially under contract. We do inspection apocalypse next week, which will be very exciting and informative, as we'll have 3 different inspectors there at the same time. So this house is going to get a checkup no matter what. So Henry Winkler would enjoy it.
Wow.
Okay. So, and you guys are moving in 2 weeks.
Yeah, like I said, we checked out the place. It's ready for us. We are boxing stuff up. The movers it's all happening. It's just a matter of,
what's the address at your new place?
So that's 83. Just kidding. And actually, it is 83 something. But I've learned from your wife. Yeah, I've learned from your wife. We got to stay out of that. Look, my cat is literally cleansing her buttocks as we do this podcast. I think she's just out of frame, thankfully.
No, we can see the leg sort of sticking up. That like we know what's happening right down here.
So should we?
Wow.
Let's do this. Let's do a podcast.
Let's do a podcast. Okay, and let us begin with
Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas.
Okay, well, we've got lots of conversations online. Let's start with Maxwell's Demon 9, who wrote this week, "I'm really enjoying the thoughtful season wrap-ups.
Hey.
We are now just an episode away from our season oopsies. On an unrelated note, before I was listening to the season 3 finale podcast, I skipped to the end because I was dying, losing my head to know how Mike would react to the Vogelman reveal. He didn't disappoint, delivering a Vogelman plot twist freak out for the ages. It was great."
One of the few times in my life I did not disappoint.
That's true. But I honestly, it is one of my favorite parts of the show to listen to your reaction to the plot twists, because you are a very good reactor. So now we need to go into the continuation of the endless saga about whether or not I should be put down or not if I can't wipe myself. And so Phoenix
quite the back and
wrote,
forth. We should say moderator Phoenix. I believe he's received
official moderator Phoenix, wrote that my comment that Mike was drunkenly trying to remember was that if Keith ever breaks both his arms, a bidet and a high-fiber diet would keep him from being euthanized. That's true. I, of course, am sticking to my pledge. But then it continues to say, do you realize that by putting that out there, you're making it possible for someone to effectively murder me for the low cost of an assault charge? So essentially, all you would have to do is break my arms, and then that would essentially be murdering me. That's a very important. It's a very important.
It's a very good point.
Yeah. So and he also says, on the other hand, Keith knows that he'd be facing a fate worse than death. Oh, he was saying that. You said, clearly by someone you mean me, and I'm good with it. But get me Eugene, he best. But of course, he points out, it can't be you, because if you break both of his arms, there will be no one around to euthanize Keith during your stint in prison. Very good point. But he says, on the other hand, Keith knows that he'll be facing a fate worse than death if you ever get locked up, so he'll have to convince everyone that it was his own fault. That's checkmate right there. Every day from here on, when you wake up, you'll decide whether today is the day that you finally kill Keith. And now he knows there's nothing anyone can do about it. I think the first thing to do with all that power is obvious. Make him start the Quantum Leap podcast. All roads lead to Quantum Leap for Phoenix.
I mean, yeah, everything he said, I'm on board with it.
Yeah. So we definitely have a pretty significantly complicated murder for podcast plot.
Which I think is good. And as I said, I can still be the prime suspect even from prison because, like I said, we have associates and we need a special guest actor. He also said last week, in reference to something you had mentioned, I believe it was Phoenix. You had mentioned, the screenplay for our series finale of this podcast has been written, and you shouted out that we might need some. It's going to be an all hands on deck situation. To cast it. And Phoenix, first person, said he's got a green screen, he's got acting training, and he is ready to go.
It's great. No, I am excited. I absolutely will use you when we get there,
buddy. We use Skype for the NDIN. So
yeah. So for all of our future performers in the finale of the Out of Practice podcast, make sure you've got your Skype.
Put your reels together. We're going to really want to see something before we just hand out parts.
Yeah, we'll need an up-tempo, maybe a little tap.
Yeah.
It will be fine. Okay. Well, this is where we would be reading the reviews from a new jury member. By leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or another service of your choice, just let us know. But we have no jury members, so we must then move on, hop in the time machine, back to the year 2000, in specifically October 15th, the year 2000. And it is time to ask the eternal question, Mike, just what were you doing
This day in the basement?
Keith, I was in a drunken stupor, basically, with love. I was doing Pippin. I had a showmance happening. And you know what it is all about. You think, I'm 20 years old. Well, I'm almost 20. I'm 19. And you're 19. You think it's the best love you've ever felt. We're making out on stage. She dumped her boyfriend so that we could get together.
Always, the showmance always starts with dumping the boyfriend.
Oh, and it gets better because we both are Scorpios, so it's like fiery and it's wonderful. And we decided to do book club, right? So let me see if I can pull it up here. I think we were reading a book. I don't know if you've ever read. I'm sure you have not, actually. I could almost stake my life on it.
I can't read.
It was a book called The Celestine Prophecy, which is basically a fiction wrapped inside of a spiritual adventure. And
yeah, isn't it like the other one where Tom Hanks played it in the movie? What the hell is
great
that called?
context clues, Keith, but I can't help you out there.
I'll look it up.
It's basically, there's no such thing as coincidence. So it's about fate and about the spirits guiding you, and it's real. And there's no advertisements for it. It's all past word of mouth, so it gets that sort of grassroots thing. And he's written like 25 sequels. At that time of life when you're really idealistic and you really want to believe that you're the hero of the world, and we were both reading it anyway. It was a fun time. And this is an ex-girlfriend who turned out to be a friend in my life. So that's it's fun to tell the tale.
That's nice.
Yeah, we end
up.
The
movie I was thinking of was The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, I guess it's in that. Yes, it's sort of like that. And it's also sort of like what's the spiritual book where the teacher is an ape that speaks telepathically?
This is such a good podcast. None of us have any idea what we're talking about. Planet of the Apes? It was Planet of the Apes.
No, yeah, right. No, I'm sure someone in the chat. Oh wait, we don't have a chat. We don't do this live.
No, we don't. No, but somewhere out there in the world, guys, it's X.
You're going to hear this story in a few weeks, but we end up. Quick spoiler alert: her and I end up watching the returns for the presidential election this year and going to bed thinking, "Oh, it's all good," and we wake up into a universe we didn't expect. So that's my this day in the basement.
Chads.
Pippin is just about to open, I think, and I'm young, in love, shirtless, and hairless.
Yeah, well, One of those is still true.
What about you, Keith? How's it going in Rochester?
Well, it's funny you teed it up because I was deep into the final stages of the 2000 election. Of course, I was watching the third presidential debate between George W. Bush and Al Gore. And of course, it was a big night for me. Very excited about it. And if you remember, if you were around those days, what those debates were best known for was Gore sighing, fuzzy math, and of course the SNL sketches that came from it. So here's a little clip of Gore sighing.
Well, Gore's exaggerated.
Texas, that's what a governor gets to do.
Exasperated sighs.
There's differences.
Resuscitated by SNL.
Rome came to life and Gladiator.
And anyway, I remember, I mean, certainly the sketch, if you have strategery and lockbox, that sketch from that era, it's separate from this podcast. But if you want to hear a really fascinating behind the scenes story in SNL about that sketch specifically, listen to Daryl Hammond's Terry Gross interview from about 10, 15 years ago, where he was dealing with some pretty difficult anxiety and mental health issues at that point, and don't we all? But he kind of blacked out 5 minutes before the opening, and that was the opening sketch of SNL, and he didn't, when he woke up, right as the lights were coming up, he didn't really know where he was or what he was doing, and lights come up, he thinks lockbox in his head, because that's his into the impression, which I totally get, because I have ins into the impressions, the sad, bad impressions that I do. It's like, it's one word that sort of gets me there. In
no universe should you or I put ourselves adjacent even to Daryl Hammond.
No, in no way other than I got a little puffy around 2010.
Okay,
that was that's what we could. That's what we both did. But anyway, it's just it's one of those like heroic live performance stories where people just pull it out under the most insanely difficult circumstances. So anyway, shout out to Daryl Hammond.
Did you listen to that on NPR?
Of course I did.
Yeah, it's funny because this is how much of an older man I am than you, even though by age you've got me by a few months. I saw him speak about that on CBS Sunday Morning.
Of course. Which you still watch.
I still do, religiously.
Well, to be fair, I still listen to Terry Gross. So Terry Gross, the original progenitor, great podcaster interview. Anyway, so I was, of course, watching those debates and was very, very invested in this election. It should surprise none of our listeners that as the soft-shelled liberal of myself, I was, of course, a Gore supporter and had no idea what was about to
How much did the Gulf War come up in those debates? Quite a bit, I'd have to imagine.
The first Gulf War?
Right.
In 91? Not a lot. I mean, they certainly did talk about foreign policy, and actually in that debate, there's Bush actually tried to reach out to moderate countries in the Middle East. Little did we know what was coming about a year later. But the original Gulf War didn't come up as much because it was W's father running it, and that war was actually pretty popular.
Pretty popular, right? Yeah, Desert Shield and then Desert Storm. Yeah.
Desert Storm, yeah. Anyway, so certainly as of right now, we're recording this in September of 2020. The election, the calamity that is going to be the election is certainly first on our minds as well. May we all have a peaceful transition of power. No guarantees, apparently, for that anymore. All right. We have talked about This Day in the Basement.
This Day in the Basement.
It is now time for...
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Well, folks, on October 15th, the year 2000, we were listening to Come On Over, Baby. All I Want Is You, the Christina Aguilera. And this is a pretty awesome one-man a cappella cover by Isaac Robert. All by himself. Very impressive.
Go, Isaac.
Yeah. On the cover
Get
of the
ready for that
Burlington
oopsie
Free
bump.
Press. Yes. If you notice no change in your listeners, you've got the oopsie bump. Anyway, the cover of the Burlington Free Press talked about why Vermonters couldn't make big IBM score. Unfortunately, this was when IBM was starting to transition out of Vermont, where it was one of the biggest employers for most of my childhood and high school. I even worked there at the IBM plant in Essex for one summer. The top movie was Meet the Parents, which was taking in week 2. I'm going to give you the chorus because you're good.
You can milk me, fucker. I've got nipples.
Wait, what did you just say?
I said you can milk me, fucker. I've got nipples.
Oh,
It's a Meet the Parents Mick
yeah,
mashup.
I what it sounded like to me was like, I'm a pig fucker who has nipples.
Well, they're not mutually exclusive, Keith.
No, they are not. And that's a thing that just got said on the internet. And Jillian's worried about saying a town name. Jesus.
I know. Al Gore's not the only one deep sighing in the other room.
CEO Jen just threw her laptop out the window.
I know. There's a difference. She's Jill's in there telling you what not to say. Jen's in here trying to figure out how she can listen to us talk. She's like, I can't hear Keith well enough. I'm like, why do you love this podcast so much? You should be like every other wife and think I'm wasting my time.
Well, those things aren't mutually exclusive.
You're
She
right.
could enjoy it and think it's a colossal waste of time.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
To be fair, that's also how I feel about it.
It's true. To be fair, it's accurate.
It is just the truth.
Yeah.
It is super fun and a colossal waste of time. But you want to
colossal.
know what isn't a colossal waste of time?
Ooh, okay.
It's time
where is it?
for Sportsball.
Oh, no, I forgot
5-2
about
New York
Sportsball.
Football Giants took down the hated Dallas Cowboys 19-14 at Giant Stadium behind 108 yards from no gain Dane. The Lightning half of Thunder and Lightning, Tiki Barber, also rushed for 73 yards and had 2 catches. Troy Aikman threw 5 interceptions in the twilight of his career. The Eagles pulled the 4-3 with a 33-14 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. Thunder McNabb threw for 226 yards and a touchdown and rushed for second. I'm writing too much copy.
I gotta tell you, football's a little weird right now.
Well, football is a lot weird.
It's just not the same.
It's not the same. Also, like, I don't know. Football, the more we know about the sport, just gets a little dark.
Yeah.
It's a little dystopian. If you've ever seen the original Rollerball movie with Jimmy Caan back from the 70s, football starts feeling like that a little bit. It's a little gross. I mean, I'm still watching. I'm still excited. I'm still a huge fan, but it's a little dark.
Though it must be said, this might be of interest to some of our listeners. I'm moving back to Philadelphia, and we take a lot of shit about our sports fandom.
As
But
you
it
should.
is almost 100% accurate. And this past week especially. So it's the second week of the season, it should be noted. So it's early, working out kinks. And our team, let's just say, sucks.
It does, yes.
And our quarterback, who was pretty prized, he's played 2 pretty good seasons, but he gets injured a lot. And it's the second week of the season, and he's playing pretty shitty. And you'll note that there are no fans in the attendance at these games.
Yeah.
So the local broadcast crew is pumping in crowd noise. Well,
Right.
even though there are no fans at the stadium, last week our quarterback was playing such that the broadcast crew in Philadelphia decided to boo him. They played boos all throughout the fourth quarter to boo our quarterback. Talk about epic trolling. That is Philly 100%.
That is super Philly. And as a owner of Carson Wentz on my fantasy football team, I also was booing. All right, we have done Sportsball. It's now time for...
Got it.
You know...
It was the fall, everybody. I was in goo goo gaga land. I don't know if it was hot or cold. I was pretty hot and steamy where I was, is all I know for sure. So instead, Keith, I'd like to take a detour and do something a little different. I want to talk about true crime, but not in the way we've been doing it.
Does it need live underscoring?
It does not today.
Okay.
I don't have a good case for us, so I found something in the news, October 15th, the year 2000, that I think actually informs kind of the state of everything on the practice as well. Some things we take for granted. This comes from the New York Post, and you will seldom hearing me quote anything from the New York Post.
Yeah, fair enough.
However, the byline is October 15th, the year 2000. The NYPD sends a group of cops to England to study the scientific DNA techniques of Britain's detectives, who are considered the world's most technologically advanced, the Post has learned. The fact-finding trip followed a visit to the NYPD's crime scene unit commanding officer to the United Kingdom. DNA is very much following what fingerprints once were, said Thomas Repetto, president of the Citizens Crime Commission and co-author of NYPD, a City and Its Police. We used to send investigators to England to study fingerprinting. DNA is to the 21st century what fingerprinting was to the 20th century, and I don't think anyone can say what the limitations and potentiality for DNA technology is. It's certainly going to revolutionize detective work. There may be no such thing as an unsolved case that cannot be solved ever again moving forward. So that was wrong about cold cases, but I just thought it was interesting. You know, we've come to accept DNA as a given. But as early as 2000, it was still a new technology being developed and being explored. And we here in America had to go and learn from the Brits. So I thought that was an interesting
tidbit. Scotland Yard. Yeah, no, that is an interesting tidbit. And it is, DNA is now so fundamental to criminal cases now. And still sort of universally accepted as an irrefutable standard.
But even in those 20 years, think about the advancements, right? So, there was a great example at the end of last season of The Practice where, crime labs, where basically cold cases, all of the evidence was stored in cardboard boxes in these warehouses, which is really detrimental to the accurate storing of DNA and genetic materials. And nowadays, and even at that, you had to hope that somebody was in a database somewhere. But now, with 23andMe and these other, what are they? What do we refer to them as? Hereditary
genome mapping stuff.
Genome mapping stuff, and just that they can get swabs from your trash, and we're kind of seeing that future that they thought where like DNA can actually solve these crimes with no other leads. So.
Well, it can solve a lot, although honestly, from my understanding of it, a lot of the cold case materials are still stored that way and still not tested. I mean, the backlog on rape kit testing is, I think, a criminal injustice in our country. There are thousands and thousands of kits that have never even been tested the first time, let alone retested. So we have a long way to go yet. But it is good that we are continuing to do that. Of course, every time, the comment about there will be no unsolvable murder, or crimes. Well, that's not true, because as always, we just get better at being criminals. And now everybody's thinking about, how am I leaving DNA? How am I not leaving DNA? Certainly when I'm committing crimes, I'm thinking about that. So,
and it's a shame that the majority, not want to say the majority, but a huge chunk of DNA evidence is used to actually exonerate people who were convicted wrongly.
Which in my opinion, probably should be the number one priority.
Yeah, that's very fair.
I think it is far more important that we do not have innocent people in jail, even more important than getting guilty people in jail.
Yeah.
So,
well, maybe if we didn't just try to convict people randomly just to get the conviction. I'm looking at you, Helen.
Helen, yeah.
Although Helen has a turn, so I'm looking at you, Richard Bay.
Yeah, that's true. Well, last episode, Helen definitely started the pivot a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
we talked about a beat change, right? This was sort of an arc change for Helen.
is season 5 the redemption of Helen?
Well,
We'll
you'll
see.
hear it a few minutes when I have my what does Mike think's going to happen. So,
Oh shit! All right, well, let's do it. Let us talk about.
I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
Oh, hair curtains.
oh, take that.
Here we go. Everybody drink. Everybody. This episode is not sponsored by Coke Zero. Although, if they wanted to send me some free Coke Zero, you can also enjoy the Oopsie Bump. If you see no difference in the sales of Coke Zero, you're welcome.
Same Coke, zero the sponsorship.
Zero. No calories, no sponsorship. All right. This episode is Season 5, Episode 2, Germ Warfare. It is written by series creator, of course, David E. Kelly, and just him. And it was directed by Dwayne Clark, who last directed Till Death Do Us Part. Yeah, so I get confused because now that we're trying to do 2 episodes this weekend, so I'm like halfway into prepping the next episode, so I have no idea what's happening or what's going. And my
Welcome
short-term
to
memory
every
is not
minute
good.
of my life.
Well, I have really bad short-term recall of what we're doing now. Like Jen texted earlier this week about something I said on the podcast last week that I had no memory of saying whatsoever. So anything could happen. I won't remember what's happening right now.
Stop the presses. I want to piggyback on my conspiracy theory from last week. We had a new friend who said Eugene is best.
Yes.
On YouTube. I
think you might be making a new enemy, sir.
I looked at the date of that post, and it coincides to the day that the hack of my Google Pay account, which is attached to my YouTube account, was hacked. They tried to get $46.67 from me. So I'm just saying it all lines up. All I need now is a little forensic evidence, and I'm ready to press.
Sir, I must call you on your bullshit, sir. Because just because he has a Russian name does not mean he is a bot, nor does it mean that he's also stealing your shit. In fact, were the person stealing your shit to be doing that, they probably wouldn't want to draw attention to themselves by making a relevant, helpful comment on our YouTube page. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
If they listen to the episode, to the show, they probably would know I'm not the person to rob.
No, clearly. So I have to call you on your Russophobia, sir. I got to call bullshit on that.
So what we've learned today is Keith loves Russia, Russians, and Russian bots. Keith is a supporter of Russia, and I'm not going to say that makes him a communist, but it doesn't not make him a communist.
Would it be so bad if we were friends with Russia? I don't know. I mean, would it be so bad if Putin and I rode a horse together, shirtless, with our flabby bodies just slapping together in the sweaty breeze?
Oh my! Did we have Daryl Hammond on the show? That sounds. Oh my God! I can't believe we got such a get.
Oh boy, yeah. All right. Well, shots fired in both directions. It is time to move forward with.
What is that supposed to mean? What's your problem? Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
Done.
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
Well, first things first, I want to say, so glad to welcome back the previously ons this week. We got a full 2-minute recap of last week's episode, which was the first episode of the season, which there wasn't even a recap on the first episode of the season. And it played basically the whole episode. It was a full 2 minutes of what happened last week. So my guess, the easy part of my guess is that, hey, baby, we're revisiting both cases. This could be just called a part 2. Even though it's not called a part 2, it could be.
Right.
Because we're going to revisit Bobby's good friend who maybe killed his wife, but maybe didn't. We don't know because the wife's brother lied in court.
Because Bay told him to.
Yep. And so clearly we're going to revisit that. And also, don't forget, the kids got poisoned from the slide, and the continuing resolution got approved, so they're going to trial. So I think we're going to get to see Eleanor firing on her huge, riding in on her OOPSY Awards to chew all the scenery and win all the awards again this week. And here's my big thing. I think that Helen, who doesn't want to jeopardize her career,
okay,
still has to feed the hole in her heart of being such a dark person all these seasons. So she's going to try to out Richard Bay's shady business and out the brother's lie, but do it covertly. So she's going to try to sabotage the state's case, her own case, but do it covertly. That's my big swing. And she's going to do it with photographic evidence.
Oh, okay. So just to be clear, when do we hit the Stonehenge part?
Well, that was last week.
Oh, okay.
Stonehenge is now just here in my heart. As you can see, it's for my chakras right here.
All right. Well, that is exciting. It is now time to hop over to your favorite podcasting service and listen to us discuss The Practice Season 5, Episode 2, Germ... Oh, for fuck's sake. Germ Warfare!
Okay, welcome back to the show. We just watched a heck of an episode. We lost so much money during that.
So much money. I lost it literally last week. This week, we're losing it fictionally. No less devastating. And if you're wondering, what does Mike remember about what just happened as he was having his identity stolen and making jokes about anal leakage? If you missed it, you definitely need to go back and listen to the episode on your podcasting service. But if you are not going to...
Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show. Y'all, Helen completely retconned. Now she's a warrior for truth and justice. She said, you know what, Richard Bay coached that guy and that guy lied. Make it all better. And then we had a crazy close from Lindsay who got cleaned up in the shower and then made a great close. And guess what? They gave the parents of the poisoned kids on the slide $72 million, shoved it right up their ass, but then pulled it right out and said, no, you can't have it. So now Eleanor's like, I'm going to get that judge. And Helen's boss is like, I'm going to get you. And Helen's like, bring it.
Yeah. All right.
And by the way, we won, but we lost.
Yeah, we were lost. So we're going to find out. Are they going to retry it again with the same dickish judge and see what happens? I don't know. But before any of that happens, it is time for us to hand out some fake awards in everyone's favorite...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present...
Oopsie.
The Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the Oopsies?
Well, Jackie, they're our fake award show, which every week begins with... Most Valuable. Okay, Most Valuable Lawyer.
Well. I think, it was Eleanor's case.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it stands to reason that Kelly Williams, Lindsay McDonald Had a Farm, was the one who brought it home with that close and convinced the jury. In fact, not only convinced them quickly. They only deliberated for an hour. So I think for me, it's Lindsay Dole.
Yeah, well, I think that she did a phenomenal cross of the EPA's main witness and did a great close. And E-I-E-I-O, I think it's got to be Lindsay Dole. So congratulations, Lindsay Dole, on your OOPSY Award. Coming up next.
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
I tried to grab 2 drumsticks, but all I got was a pencil and the cap of a pen. So
close enough.
Yeah.
I have a set of tweezers and an earplug.
That's MacGyver style, baby. He could have made drumsticks out of these.
That's right.
That's so many tools for MacGyver. We talked about MacGyver on the episode, so that's what we're talking about.
Don't miss it. Go back and listen.
So I have 2 people who really impressed me with a couple of scenes. So I didn't give him the oopsie last week, but who was the guy that Bobby's old friend? What's his name again?
Bruce Davidson.
Yes, Bruce Davidson. I thought last week it was a little muddied because we weren't supposed to fully know whether he did it or not. Whereas this week we know he didn't. And so his compassion and belief for Bobby and with Bobby in those scenes is really pretty moving, actually. I really liked that, but I also loved as we talked about in the episode, if you haven't listened, the mother on the stand once again. I thought, I can't. My IMDb is so small. Yes. So I'm hoping maybe we do a split ski, but and the judge was good too. But I'm gonna give it to the mother, Lucinda Jennings.
Jenny, yes.
Yes,
no,
we're close friends. She lets me call her Jenny. Jennings.
Ah, great.
Actually, she asked me explicitly not to call her.
Yes. Yeah. Fair enough. No, I agree with you. I thought, good performances all around. But I'm not going to split with you. I think Lucinda Jenny really did the heavy lifting as the guest actor in this episode. And, we just gave Lindsay the MVL for the work in this case, but I think her righteous anger was also a big factor in winning this case. So she gets a little bit of the MVL, even though she was not an L. She did a really good job advocating for herself and for her family. So congratulations, Lucinda Jennings, Jennyopolis, with your fake award. Now we all know what's coming. Mike's already prepared.
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show. Wow.
Now, trust me, there's a part of me, the Mike from season 3's finale, really wants to award Bobby McRambo, who's back. He took it to 12. Right. He was pissed.
That's my screenshot.
But I'm going to go a different way today. She was measured. She was calculated. She took a hell of a shower. We saw all the best sides, the clean sides, and the defiant sides of Kelly Williams this week. And I'm going to award her my oopsie. Was it the wink? Was the wink too much?
Thirsty.
Wow. So, the video element of this podcast, you have been through audio trying to seduce Kelly Williams from 20 years ago.
Trying.
And it was uncomfortable enough. But now we have the whole video element of it. Kelly, if you're watching, why? But
Look at those view counts on the YouTube, Keith. I don't think Kelly has been watching.
Yeah, well, we'd know because all of our audience would double. It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, without any uncomfortable references to her showering and or her cleanliness, I will speak exclusively about your acting. I thought Kelly Williams really crushed it this week. And it's hard sometimes when you're not having the big emotional breakdown, but you have to carry an important scene like that. I mean, just the memorization of that dialogue alone, the comprehension of that dialogue. Because it's not just technobabble. You can't just say a bunch of word salad and it means something. You have to create meaning with all of that work and all of that dialogue. And I thought it was great. I thought she did a really excellent job. So congratulations, Kelly Williams. Send your restraining order to my unnamed town in in New Jersey. Oh, crap. She's going to slap me. In New Jersey. But you will get your OOPSY Award. That brings us to...
the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
Up on the screen, you're going to see Poisony Slide Tom Brady. This one made me giggle quite a bit.
Poison Swing Set Tom Brady. Yeah.
This week, Keith, one of the closest to true life Tom Brady has ever. This one doesn't even need to be associated with the practice because it's, I think, almost 100% true. And it is millions of dollars coming out of his ass, Tom Brady.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that.
I'll allow you to not use ass if you don't want to.
Oh, I can.
In fact, no, it's ass with $2 signs.
Oh, okay.
Clearly.
All right. That's because this is a family-friendly show.
Yeah. As you'll hear, I'm sure the jingle I wrote during the what do you call it? The end of that case.
Yeah, we're probably gonna hear that a lot. Actually,
yeah, I think that one might want to.
It might survive.
Yeah. I was really feeling it. It didn't make any sense to me that, they could retire after a judgment like this. This is probably not going to last. I really thought we had done it.
You're very, very excited. All right. Well, we have only one more thing to do before we can all go back to our lives, and that is determine.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
I lost the thread a little bit in the middle there because I had...
You were being hacked?
I was being hacked in real time. And as a matter of fact, I got a critical alert for our Out of Practice podcast account as well. So
you already changed the password on that one.
I guess I'm going to have to make it a little bit more, I
got to change all mine now, just prophylactically.
I really got to figure what's going on. Although I took all of my payment stuff off my accounts. So I don't know. You can read my emails. Let's see. Anyway, so I did get a little distracted, but I did enjoy the episode. I guess it's not even done yet. There's so many threads are ongoing now. We still have to see where things go. I like when David E. Kelly gets on his soapbox and writes an episode attacking some sort of government agency, because he does a good job of showing both sides of the argument, and then giving us that brief window of, the righteousness, and then reminding us that, guess what, that can't really happen. There's no real accountability. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but it makes for good TV. And it was great to see the rest of the cast. They really got to write some episodes for Rebecca and Eugene and get them into the show again. We talked about it bugging us last season, and it's continuing to bug me. All in all, still a good episode. We've started pretty strong, I think, and I mentioned this seasons ago, but I like arcs that it's not just like Freak of the Week. We're getting arcs that we follow now, the stuff with Helen is really interesting to me. She's needed sort of a jump start for a while now.
Yeah.
I think they wrote her into a corner for a little while, and now they're giving her some new stuff, and so I'm really digging that. All in all, it's a good continual episode. I don't know that it's a highlight for me, so I'm going to say 7.5 0.25 spare tires.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm with you on all of that. I really do like the more serialized storytelling here. I like the cases that continue if there is enough story to justify it. And in this case, the story justifying it is not necessarily the case itself, but how our heroes are navigating that case. And, you know, we had the EPA as an obstacle, and that was interesting. And now we have a judge as an obstacle, and that's interesting. So, no, I really did enjoy all of that. I agree with you that the continually complex Helen Gamble is growing a little bit and starting to bump heads with what she's doing. And it also, this feels a little bit more honest, a little bit less forced than they like, what are we doing? We're lawyers. Are we good people? Because this is actually more specific to a case, more specific to a situation, and feels more earned. And of course, because you're introducing Richard Bay, who kind of has a lot of overlap with old Helen. The sort of like win at all costs. I want to take down this. I want to get the victory. I want to build my reputation. That's sort of Helen from season 2 and season 3. So if we're going to have him come in, you just can't duplicate the character. And of course, as I'm watching this, if I take out all of what I know in the future, I'm like, oh shit, are we writing out Helen and replacing with Bay here? I don't know. Anyway, so I like all of that. I really like the class action stuff. I just frequently find that more compelling than sort of the criminal case of the week, like you said. So I'm always happy. I'm always up for it when we have a bigger class action going up against an institution, be it a tobacco company or the government or whomever. So I'm here for it. I like it. But you're right. It's not one of those like, oh my God episodes. It's a very good episode. I'm hoping it's setting up an oh my God episode. So I'm going to give this a very solid 7.85 spare tires.
7
because I want some
messed
tiebreakers.
It all up again.
Yeah, that fan is very persistent. All right, so we have done all of the nonsense we do in the show, and we have 30 seconds to think about it, apparently. Well, if you would like to reach out and complain about all of the anal leakage talking, you can find us at Facebook and Instagram at Out of Practice. You can email us directly when it's not hacked, outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can go to our blog when it's updated, outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. But you know who's always great? The generous donations who help make this podcast possible, from Leanne Wrights, Cloud Lover 69, Jorge Novoa, and Jennifer Massanova.
If you'd like to join them, you can donate to the podcast in one of two ways: a one-time donation or a monthly contribution. You can find the links to do so in our show notes. We'd like to thank all of our current and future sponsors for helping us out. If you'd like to also help, you can leave a rating review, as Keith said, or you can go ahead and tell somebody to listen to the podcast. Keith, we'd like to personally thank Daryl Hammond for coming out and joining us on the pod today. And we'd like to let you know that listening to the Out of Practice podcast could indeed cause anal leakage. It could also cause money to fall spontaneously out of your ass. These symptoms may also include spontaneous laser sounds.
Laser sounds.